On the agenda that it looks a little more than usual, right? But normally we have like 2 or 3 big things. Today we have some smaller items, just quite a few of them. So, last day I'll see y'all before the break, right?
Bye-bye.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
We're going to start out with a bell ringer, just an opener activity. Once that's complete, we'll do a research on the poet that wrote a poem that we're going to analyze today. After we do a little research, we're going to analyze his poem. Once we analyze the poem and answer some questions, we're going to write a poem about ourselves because we love ourselves, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
So that's the agenda today. The outcomes, I want you all to be able to identify the theme of the poem we read. I want you to be able to identify the use of literary devices within the text. That means things like metaphors, similes, the 3 rhymes we talked about, hyperboles, right? A lot of those things that are in your poetry guided notes. And then last goal for today is I want you to be able to write a poem about yourself using some of those literary devices. So we're going to write a poem about ourselves. It's a guided poem, which means it has questions. You'll answer it on questions about yourself using metaphors and similes today. Metaphor? Raise your hand if you remember what that is. Example was we use them a lot or see them a lot in rap music or even any music. So a metaphor, comparison of 2 things, right?
Yes.
Simile is like a metaphor, only it involves what?
Like it.
Alright.
I was about to say that metaphors are one of the tools that makes rap music a little more enjoyable.
Okay.
It makes it catchy.
Right. It does. It makes it catchy, and it allows us to use our imagination with some of the comparisons of things. A lot of times when people talk about being animals or beasts or things like that. So Seth, if you wouldn't mind hitting the next slide for me. Alright, so when I asked you to get out a piece of paper and something to write with, this is going to be your opener for the first portion. And it's just 4 things. Last class we discussed 3 types of rhymes that are found in some poetry. And we looked at examples of lyrics from Katy Perry, Carly J. Jensen, Ray Jensen,
Yeah.
thank you. And who else? Who was the other one?
It wasn't Gaga. It was Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus. Alright, so we looked at what types of rhymes they use. So I want you to list those 3 rhymes that we talked about. We had blank rhyme, and blank rhyme. Alright, so that's the first part. So number 1, 2, and 3, and
You use your folders.
yeah, if you want to use your folders, I'll pass those out. Okay, Sean? I'll give you the answers since you were absent last class. So see if you can try and remember on your own at first. If you need to look through your guided notes, that's fine. And then the second part is when poets describe events, characters, or settings, it appeals to the senses. This is known as what? Don't say it out loud. Write it on your paper. Remember we talked about when authors use words to describe things that appeal to our 5 senses. Sight, hearing, touch, taste. Yeah, because it's at, well, after this. Get the opener done first. Jake wants to absent. So first, the 3 types of rhymes we discussed. And the second portion is the literary device that appeals to the reader's senses. It's what makes a poem or story more interesting, less dull. Right? It helps us visualize what the author is trying to tell us. Oh, are you on the second part? Well, you would be able to see a lot better if you were over here. What's that?
Oh, I screwed that up. That was supposed to be a part of this.
You don't have to quote anything. Just tell me what type of rhymes there were. Remember, there were 3 types of rhymes we discussed. Boom. On point, son. Now, don't copy, though. I want you to get it on your own. I'm not saying you were. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. No big deal. It's on your other page. So in your notes, it was on the page where you found the 3 types of rhymes and highlighted them. Raise your hand if you're finished. Take two and a half minutes to finish up. That last part was just the word that authors use to help you visualize a character or setting that appeals to your 5 senses. I'll give you a big, big hint. It helps you imagine. Oh, okay, cool. Very nice. Nobody can think of that one word, huh? She's a doozy.
Where's that at?
Where's what?
Where's that? What you said?
No.
Oh, you just...
Just a figure of speech. You all remember the 5 senses, right? First one, and it doesn't matter which order it is, we had slant rhyme, which means that it doesn't have to exactly rhyme, correct? Does anybody have an example?
And this is crazy, so call me maybe.
Okay, crazy and maybe. They're similar, but they don't exactly rhyme, so that's a slant rhyme. So that was one of yours. A second one would be, yes?
End rhyme.
End rhyme. And what makes it an end rhyme?
Like at each and every sentence or less that has a rhyming word with the next sentence.
Okay, so it occurs where in the line?
At the end.
At the end. Hence the name end rhyme.
I was used in old school reference.
Yeah, so an end rhyme, an example. I like to get around with my homies in my dog pound. Boom. Right? Alright. So that's an end rhyme. And last but not least, Kyle, what'd you get? Internal rhyme. Occurs where, Johnny? You don't know? I think you do, man. You just might have forgot. Internal rhyme. Chris, do you know?
Wait, do I have to quote one or just...
No, just tell me where it occurs.
You said internal?
Internal.
Yeah, it occurs... it's hard to say.
Alright, if you have internal bleeding, where are you bleeding at?
Yeah,
inside your body, right? So internal rhyme occurs within the same line. So if I said, what was the bird ones? My crew just flew. Alright, so you're talking about your group of people, your crew just flew. They split.
Wish, kiss.
That would be, yeah, if it's in the same line, then yes. And a line is kind of like a sentence. Alright, so if an internal rhyme occurs in the same exact sentence. So just know that. So that's our three. Slant rhyme, internal rhyme, and end rhyme.
What does tisk
Tisk tisk means kind of like you're kind of uppity that day. Like you're kind of, as you all say, salty.
Yeah, look, tisk tisk.
So if I'm like, Julio, what'd you have for lunch today? And you're like, I didn't have lunch, Mr. Seale. Ooh, tisk tisk.
This, that.
Yes. Alright, and last one. Did anybody get this?
Wasn't it in rhyme?
No. Move into this section.
Oh, I couldn't see that.
When poets describe events, characters, or settings, appealing to the five senses, this is known as, I gave you my hot dog expression of, that's a good hot dog. Well, you can't really visualize. Then I gave the example of, you okay?
Oh, I just had to move it.
Okay. As I stare at this beautiful chili dog, my mouth begins to salivate like the Niagara Falls. As I bite into the hot dog, I float away on a cloud for a little piece of heaven. Is that easier to visualize on how good that hot dog is? You see me floating on a little cloud? Do you or no?
Yeah.
No? Raise your hand if you see me floating on a cloud eating a hot dog.
Mentally, yes.
Okay. That's known as imagery, ladies and gentlemen. So when an author or poet describes things using appealing to the five senses, that is called imagery. Hold on to that paper. We're going to use it. If you'll click for me. The poem we're going to do today is Mother to Son. It's the name of the poem. That's why I got a mama elephant with a baby and a mom with her son. What do moms generally try and do for their sons?
Keep them straight.
Keep them straight. Guide them through life. Right? A lot of times. Or even if it's not your mom. It could be, anyone who cares for you. That wants to show you, to teach you about life and to guide you. So we're going to read a poem about a mother and her son and life experiences.
Oh, into now getting irritated sometimes.
Yes, parents can irritate you sometimes, just like children can irritate you sometimes. The role is mutual. The poem was written by a man named Langston Hughes, who we're going to do some research about to get to know him, understand where he's coming from. We don't want to hang out with the dude if we don't know him. So we want to get to know the guy and figure out, why might he have written this? What is the meaning of him writing this? Alright, so if you'll click for me, Seth. We're going to do some research using our trusty dusty iPads. Alright? And I just did that because it rhymed. They're not actually dusty because we wipe them off. So first, you're gonna when I prompt you to get an iPad, you're going to look for background information on Langston Hughes. Who is Langston Hughes?
Poet.
The poet! the guy I just introduced you to. Wake up, Johnny. Come on now. All right, thumbs up. He's good. So we're going to find out a little bit about Langston Hughes. You can Google some information. All right, you can go to any of the apps on there that have to do with research. But we're going to take about 7 minutes, maybe 10, depending on how well y'all are working. And I have this, it's called a 3-2-1 chart. You're going to fill out this chart based on the information you find. The 3 is for 3 things you found out. So automatically you know in the research while you're reading, you want to tell me 3 things about Mr. Hughes. Alright, because right now, raise your hand if you know anything about Langston Hughes.
Nothing.
That's what I figured. So, this leaves the ground open for you to find out 3 things about Mr. Langston Hughes. Then you'll see the next chart, number 2.
What 3 and 2 relate together?
They will. They'll all relate together. 2 would be 2 interesting facts. So 2 interesting facts that stand out to you. Alright? Maybe if he was a clown and you think that's interesting. I don't know. Okay? Just something you find interesting, list 2 things. And they don't even have to be full sentences. You can just bullet them. Right? Everybody's bulleted before. Okay? And the last one we're going to do after our discussion of Langston Hughes, and it'll be one question you still have. Alright, so maybe something you want to know about Mr. Hughes. Right? Sound clear enough?
Yes.
Alright. So, I'll get the iPads. If you want to, Julio and Kyle, come up, grab a chart. I'll hand you an iPad. Seth, if you wouldn't mind setting my timer for 10 minutes. Don't start it yet, just set it, please. There you are. And just a friendly reminder, because the wonderful library staff has asked us, because they're kind of in charge of the iPads, don't take pictures or change the settings on these, okay? Because we won't be able to use them if that stuff happens. Alright? So don't be taking pictures of me. I know I'm a handsome fellow, but... Do you disagree? Alright. 10 minutes. Yeah, don't start it yet, though. Thank you. Make sure you put your name on your 3-2-1 chart, because I can't give you credit if I don't know who it is. Right? So a good way to start, and I'm sure y'all are familiar with Google. If you're not, I'll teach you how to type it in. Raise your hand if you've never used Google in here. Really?
I want to keep using Google.
Are you messing with me, man? Alright. So you can Google Langston Hughes. I'll write his name on the board for you. If your iPad isn't charged or isn't working, let me know. I'll get you another one. Alright, you can go ahead and start me up. Now, remember, task at hand first. Some of those won't work at the same pace as others, so if you finish first, you can play around on the iPad, but this is to be done first. Alright, because when our timer goes off, we're going to discuss Mr. Langston Hughes. I'll write his name up here if you...
You want us to get information from him?
Yes, sir.
That's 90s?
Like 3 things you find out, so that could be anything from where he was born, where he went to school, is he still alive, any of those things. So 3 things you find out.
Is he a pro?
2 interesting facts. Is he what?
Does he used to be a pro?
Did he used to be a pro?
That's what it says here.
You mean a poet?
PRO.
Might have the wrong guy. That's Langster. It's Langston. L-A-N-G? No, wait. Yeah.
You had it?
I wrote that, didn't I? Langston Hughes. I must have had Coach Langster in my head. All right. Yes, that's him. What's that? A stylist?
Not stylist.
Well, I mean, I just need, I don't need all that change.
What do you mean?
Because it'll slip out.
Oh, yeah. Chris, you can worry about money after the assignment.
I know.
Because I trust you. You don't need any money right now because this, what I'm giving you, this knowledge right here,
Yeah.
is absolutely free.
Okay.
At least to you. Okay, not to some people because they're paying their taxes and all that good stuff. Yes.
What am I supposed to do?
All right, so you're looking up Langston Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, so did you find him? Yeah, that's him. So tell me 3 things that you found out about him, because you didn't know anything about him, right?
Right.
So 3 things that you find out. That could be his birthday, whether or not he had kids, what kind of shoes he wears. All right, anything you find out. And then the second box is 2 interesting facts. So something that stands out in your mind is interesting. Because what I think is interesting is not the same as what you may think.
He was only 24 years old. He was already conspicuous in the African American intellectual.
So that's pretty cool, right? Did you get your stuff taken care of?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay.
Body. If you want, instead of 2 months, let's do it inside the building.
All right, got roughly 6 minutes.
All of us.
Yeah, I got you. Why wouldn't you use Wikipedia?
Because it has a bunch of false information.
Ah,
It may be helpful.
it may have
Yeah,
some of it.
some
of
false
Alright.
information.
I was just testing you.
Yeah.
Right on. And remember, you don't have to do the last one right now. We're going to do it after we discuss.
He was known for jazz poetry.
Uh-huh. Which was the music that was popular during that time period. That's when jazz was really coming on the scene. Yeah. I mean, so that was like when you all hear a new album drop from, Five Finger Death Punch or your favorite band. That's what these to use some jazz lingo, that's what these cats rocked out to. Right on. Now tell me 2 things you found interesting about Mr. Hughes. All right. And save your question for after discussion. 4 minutes.
think it's telling me you were Jewish.
It is.
Yeah.
What was the name of the poem? Yes, sir.
Huh?
Oh, okay.
That's why I hate.
Yeah, you can use some of those.
Because they get dirty.
Oh, I got it.
I just read.
He was popular. Popular.
Alright, so you finished? You finished? Done?
Red is 27.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So we done.
Hmm?
I'll only have a minute left.
Yeah. Close to 2. Done. Done? We're finished? Got it in the bag, to use a metaphor?
Oh, man. I'm trying to go on Craigslist. It's gonna say blocked.
Brendo, you need a little more time? You good? You still got a minute, so. About 20 seconds. What was that?
Can you read it?
Uh-oh.
Oh, it says suicide silence.
Woo! Alright, that's the timer, so we'll go back to our
Yeah, hit stains. I mean, yeah.
Alright, so Mr. Langston Hughes, we'll watch a short video on him and then discuss him. Slow there for us. And of course we have to watch the commercial because
I thought I knew the scene. I never expected to be this surprised. This close. A celebration for a new moment. That surprised even an old pro like me.
Seale's year-long 50th celebration. More up-close animal connections, shows, and surprises. To learn more about the celebration, like us on Facebook.
can y'all hear that a little louder?
Langston Hughes is considered a great author because he spoke to, for, and about black people in America.
Poet, novelist, and playwright, Langston Hughes was the leading voice of the Harlem Renaissance.
America was changing during the time that Langston Hughes was so popular. Black consciousness was becoming more and more public, more prominent. I think that Langston Hughes was important because he was one of the early figures to show the dignity and the beauty of ordinary black life.
He was one of the most visible of the younger black poets,
Julio.
a new generation that described themselves as the new Negro. They covered new topics, took on new poetic forms, and sought a wider audience, and Langston Hughes was at the forefront of that.
James Mercer Langston Hughes was born in Joplin, Missouri on February 1st, 1902.
He wrote a lot about being lonely when he was young, and I think that was a tremendous part of the product of moving around so much.
After graduating high school, Hughes published his first and most famous poem, The Negro Speaks of Rivers.
It is the first poem that celebrates Africa and dignifies the image of Africa in American literature.
The Negro Speaks of Rivers was published in a popular black journal, and so he was really rather widely read from the beginning. His poetry and his prose actually had access to everyday people.
While studying at Columbia University, Hughes discovered the Harlem art scene, spending hours in jazz and blues clubs, weaving the rhythms of music into his work.
Jazz and blues were great influences on Langston Hughes. He sought to capture the energy and vitality of the music in his poetry.
He was very familiar with the Harlem nightlife. He knew the musicians, and later in his life he would even collaborate with some of the key figures at that time, such as Duke Ellington.
Hughes was a prolific writer, and one of the first African-American authors who could support himself through his writing.
Langston Hughes wrote plays. He edited anthologies of poets of African descent across the diaspora. He wrote short stories. One of his most famous series of short stories centers around Jesse B. Simple. These are tales told by a resident of Harlem to an aspiring writer who's a stand-in for Langston Hughes.
He was one of the more widely published of the young poets of the period. He was also among the better connected. He really worked hard to promote the careers of other young writers in Harlem and also throughout the rest of his life. That's also one of his big legacies.
Langston Hughes died of cancer on May 22, 1967. His Harlem residence was given landmark status, a fitting tribute for a legendary writer.
His influence, his ambition as a creative writer, his success, his accessibility. He wrote for the average person. He was not writing for college classrooms. He was not writing for the elite. All of those things, I think, require that we recognize and acknowledge him as a great American literary voice of the 20th century.
All right, so that's a little bit about Langston Hughes. Seems pretty.
They really did that to his house, like made it. That's what they did to Michael Jackson's house. How they got the street named after him. They did that, like had his name in a stone and all that. I bet right in front of him.
All right, so, and just to recap some of the stuff about him. Born on February 1st, 1902 in Joplin, Missouri, like it said. Published his first poem in 1921. Does anybody remember the name of the poem from the video?
Something, I know it.
Okay. It was about what? The beauty of
jazz.
All right, he incorporated a lot of jazz and stuff into his poems. Yeah. The Africa. Right. But anyway, he attended Columbia University. Left after 1 year to travel, so he didn't complete his education. His poetry was later promoted by Vega Lindsay, and Hughes published his first book in 1926. He went on to write countless works of poetry, and one main thing that stands out about Hughes, at least to me, is that his audience was meant to be for the common people, like not your rich status or elite status people. He also wrote prose and plays, as well as popular column for the Chicago Defender, and like it said, he died on May 22nd, 1967. So now that we have a little bit of information about him, we're going to read one of his poems and answer some questions. So, first, you had that last one was something you have a question about, right? So maybe if you have a question or something that you would like to know about Langston Hughes, write that down in that spot. And when you finish, come up here, just lay your iPad, there's too many I things, on top of the cart. I'll plug them up later. You can just lay your chart right next to it. Make sure your name's on those. You don't have to plug them up there. Just set it up here. Yeah.
Whose house are you spying on?
Come on, Julio.
He's spying on someone's house. I use the restroom.
Stalker. Yes. Just make sure you take the pass.
Still gonna his girlfriend's house.
Julio, come on. Just lay it on top there. I'll get it later. Thank you, sir. Did you turn in your paper? Alright, so the poem we're going to read, anybody remember the name of it? Huh? Butterface. Butterflies? No. Remember I talked about the mother and the son? So Mother to Son is the name of the poem. In this poem, Hughes writes about a mother that speaks to her son about life's experiences and her life experience, and he uses the metaphor of a crystal stair. So I tried to find me a picture that represented some crystal stairs. This would be a nice smooth life where you get everything you want and it's easy going. Alright, so we're going to look at the stairs that the mother describes in this poem, and she compares it to a crystal stair. But we'll see what kind of life she had based upon what her stairs look like. And remember, this is a metaphor, so it's a comparison of two things. What two things? A staircase and what? It says it right up there. About life's experiences. So, know that in this poem, the mother is comparing her life to a staircase. And you might not be able to read that, but it's okay because I got a little handout for you. We can read it together. You all might not be able to see that up there.
I can.
Okay. But you got it on paper too if you need it. Alright. So, and keep in mind too, the time period and the language in this poem is not going to be high class and real proper because his audience was common folk, everyday average people. Remember, it said he hung out in a lot of these jazz clubs and he was doing the nightlife thing. Well, when you hang out with your friends, do you use proper English? No? Alright? So this isn't going to be like old style English. This is going to be English of that time and a lot of slang and jargon. Well, son, I tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time, I's a been a-climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners. And sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't sit down on the steps. Because you find it's kind of hard. Don't you fall now. For I's still going, honey. I'm still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. I'm going to give you a second for that to sink in. Just think about some evidence from the poem of what her life was like. Think about her stairs and how she describes her stairs.
Her life was wretched.
Okay? How do we know that? It's had what? Tacks in it? What are tacks? They're sharp things, right? Splinters. A crystal stair would be nice, square cut glass made out of crystal, right? Smooth walking. Hers had tacks in it, splinters. The boards were torn up. She had to constantly go around corners. It was bare. She kept doing what though? Did she stop and give up and go back down the stairs? No, it says right here, I've been climbing, reaching the landings. Don't you sit down on the steps. Alright? So think about the advice she's given her son. She's telling him, hey, my life ain't been easy. Yours might not be easy either. But you got to keep what? You got to keep, as Julio said, keep going. A famous man named Joe Dierte, Joe Dirt, once coined the phrase, you got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden. You got to dig it. All right? Keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to hand you clickers. We're going to answer some questions over the poem. All you have to do, the clickers have letters on them. A, B, C, D. We'll read the question. You'll click what letter you pick that you think is right. And then we'll review and we'll see what percentage of the class gets them right. So I'm going to write down which clicker you got so that I will be able to see how many you as an individual gets correct, as well as how much the class as a whole gets correct, because we're a team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. That may be the superintendent calling. Or the president. Mr. Seale? Absolutely. All right. I got some sad news. It seems our teammate, Mr. Kyle Jones, won't be able to participate because he has to keep on keeping on. You're going to check out. But you know what? You will be missed. Can somebody hit me with the time?
2:41. Yeah.
2:41. Thank you, gentlemen. What are we? We're 6:13. No, 6:08. Come on. What was I thinking?
Still 6:08.
Yeah. It ain't changing, is it?
No.
What's that? Kyle, you have a great spring break, man. Enjoy your time off. All right. Who's going to go first? Now be respectful to my clickers.
I haven't used clickers in a while.
Why not?
I used
Miss Amber don't use them anymore.
You don't?
They've been kind of active.
Julio, come get number 10.
I used those last year.
Chris, you can come get number 11. Kayshawn, you can come get number 12. And just hit that center button on them to get them on. Johnny, come get 13. Brando, you'll be 14. And Lance, you'll be 15. Just hit that center button, and we'll get to the questions. And you do have the poem right in front of you, so you can reference the poem at any time during these questions. We're going to take roughly 30 seconds a question, right? Yeah. That's your timer up there. So who is the mother speaking to in the poem? Don't answer out loud. Just hit your clicker for the right letter. A, her daughter. B, her son. C, both. Or D, her dad. I have 4 answers.
What the melody?
5 answers. Just hit the letter.
The letter? See, like A, B, C?
Yeah, see?
How do you know if you correct?
How do you
I'll show you.
Because it shows up. You press it, it'll say,
Yeah.
and then it'll
Alright, so I only had 5 responses.
Look.
I had everybody who answered. Answer B, which was her son, so that's correct. Who didn't answer?
It's not working.
Huh?
It is.
Did you hit the center button to turn it on? Is it on now?
Is it working? Oh, wait, well, you have to wait now. It's not.
Yeah, you're good.
Because I use these a lot.
Pretty big.
Like 2 months
Is it a
ago.
limb?
All right.
Hold it. Hold it.
Question 2. What literary device does Hughes use in the poem? A, hyperbole. B, simile. C, end rhyme. Or D, metaphor.
If you click on the
Just hit A, B, C, or D.
see like in the first one, should I hit the C?
No, don't do that. All right, I got 6. That's everybody. So the correct answer was D. We had 50% of the class get it right. 17 of you said C, which was end rhyme. And 33% said hyperbole. Raise your hand if you said hyperbole. Nobody? Well, somebody did.
I put D.
You put what?
D.
All right.
I picked C. I'm not even going to lie.
That's fine. It's okay to be wrong.
Am I the only guy who picked C? Probably.
All right. What advice does the mother give her son? Not to jump off the steps, to don't sit down on the steps, to tie your shoes before you walk, or she gives no advice at all. I got 3 responses.
Time is going too fast.
You think? Have you answered yet?
No.
Okay. What? Go ahead. No, answer.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I answered.
All right, that's everybody. Whoa! 100% says B. Don't sit down on the steps. That means everybody in here got the correct answer. So you understood what the mom was telling the son. Don't give up. Don't sit down. Well done. Well done. What kind of life has mother had? Easy, tough, or it doesn't even say? Y'all like that picture too, huh? Alright, that's everybody. Answer B, a tough life. Excellent job. You are correct, though.
If it was like kind of like how you imagine heaven, then
Oh,
it
yeah?
would be Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven's a good song.
That looks like Michael Jackson's screaming.
What does the mother want the son to do? A, to give up. B, to never give up. C, to live off other people. Or D, to buy a boat. Oh, I'm sorry, is that abusing? Don't.
Buy a boat.
Why not?
Because that's not even relevant to what this is.
Okay, I got 5. Need one more. There it is. All right. Never give up. So you all are correct as a class again. Got a tougher one for you. We're getting steeper. There's a quote up top. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps, 'cause you'll find it's kinder hard. In the text above, the author is using what type of literary device? This is a thinking question. Alright? A little tougher here. What type of literary device does this little stanza represent? I'll give you a little more time on this one. Just one more. I got 5 responses.
Okay.
Alright? No, still got 5.
Hold up. That's dark.
Alright. Ooh. So we're looking for the literary device used. 50% of you said answer C, which is end rhyme. However, none of those words up there at the end rhyme. But that's okay. Good guess. Answer B for simile. And 33% said A. Well, I have to tell you as a class, everybody failed that answer.
It didn't make sense.
But that's okay.
It's a metaphor. Right?
It's a metaphor. Because it's comparing walking up the stairs or sitting down on the stairs to giving up in life. But it can't be a simile because it doesn't have like or as. But that's okay. So that lets me know we need to work a little more on literary devices. But it's all good. All right.
I was talking to a guy last night named Jeff. He's 22, but he's got like a Fender Telecaster. He's got a B-52 cab. If he's on both those, he's gonna let me use his.
All right.
His house for a show.
Does that even spell molester on you?
No. On the back of your poem sheet, we're going to write about your own personal staircase. Alright? It doesn't have to be a big paragraph, but I want to know, what does your staircase look like at this point in your life? Alright, so use some words to describe your staircase. What would it look like if your life at this point in time right now was a staircase? Would it have tacks in it, nails? Would it be smooth? Would it have carpet? Alright? So just give me some identifying words of your life compared to a staircase right now. This way you're discussing your journey in life. Do you give up? Or are you like Joe Dirt and you keep on keeping on? And like I said, it doesn't have to be a paragraph, just some things of how your staircase looks. While you're doing that, I'll collect the clickers. They'll go off. Alright? If I was describing my life as a staircase, it would be about medium. There would be some tacks sticking up. A couple broken boards, but not too many. Yeah, just right on the back of that half-sheet poem.
Wait on the half sheet?
Well, that's fine.
So, of course, we write our names.
Absolutely. Because what if you played the raffle to win a free car, but didn't put your name on your raffle ticket? You wouldn't get a free car, would you?
We'll put these in our folder.
Huh?
We'll put these in our folder.
Yeah, you can put those in your folder. And if we have enough time, we'll start on our poems, just very briefly though. You all have done awesome today.
I've seen his stuff, like, the plate is like silver like this, and it's a black, smooth, nice stuff, guys.
Alright.
He played drum sleeve.
So that's your exit slip there. It's telling me how your staircase is. I won't see you again before spring break, right?
Right.
So you all be safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Hopefully you have a good time. Hopefully you enjoyed my lesson today. I know Johnny did. Because he wasn't sleeping, man.
I wanted to